it's my pleasure to welcome you to the continuation of your news and current affairs program, TMI, reaching you live from our Lagos Network studio on the ITV network. I am Joshua Okata. Kidnapping, as it were, has become a very cancerous scourge cutting across states in Nigeria. And of course, on this note, it is very much interesting and of course a welcome development, seeing the fact that the insertion of a death sentence, especially as capital punishment on convicted criminals, has been, approved by the government of Ondo State under the leadership of the executive governor, Lucky Ayedatiwa. And this bill, though sitting, will I call it a proposal? Yeah, a proposal which has been approved by the governor, but yet to be on the table of the State Assembly for it to be legislated on and of course eventually passed into law is something that the good people of Ondo State, are waiting to see come to a realization. But of course, what is the feasibility of such bill if eventually is enacted into law, given the fact that there are other states with same existing laws, but of course, we're yet to see individuals who have been convicted as criminals to be sentenced to death by whatever means possible. But to have this conversation this morning with me, I am being joined by Barrister Tunji Abdulhamed. He is a legal professional, or a practitioner if you would want to call it, and of course a public affairs analyst. Good morning, Barrister Tunji, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Joshua. Thank you for having me.
All right, now let's look at the issue of insecurity in Nigeria. There is no, possibility that we do not have insecurity cutting across various states. The other time we were talking about insecurity in the north, right now is coming to the south. Now, what's your take as regards it being a national issue, be it, armed banditry, be it kidnapping? What's your take as regards that?
Insecurity has been one of our major issue or concern in Nigeria, not even today. It's not only limited to the north. It's only that in north it's more pronounced. It's been everywhere. All this why. It's only that the north one is more pronounced with the Boko Haram in Borno State at that time, and then thereafter spreading across. They call them different names: banditry, terrorists, and whatever. I ask myself questions: how do they know these are not Boko Haram, these are bandits? These are how do they get the distinction? How do they know, identify them? A criminal is a criminal, whether you are a Boko Haram, whether a bandit. Because I see that a name tagging as an attempt to at least soften the crime being committed by a certain category. Because when you say bandit, they see them as a lower crime compared to terrorists and all those things. So for me, you see, our problem in this country is about government not doing the right thing. It's about failure of government. It's about insecurity. Failure of government in the sense that, look, if you look at our constitution, and I'm very sure every Nigerian that is a learned or that is interested in Nigerian situation knows this section now, section 14, subsection 2. It talks about the primary responsibility of government, which is security and welfare. And the government appear to have abandoned that security and the welfare of the people. They are more concerned about politics. So the insecurity is the issue that we're having. Is as a result of the failure of government. The government are not doing the right thing to fight the insecurity. For instance, you say you are fighting insecurity. You talk about the fact that you have arrested or you have been able to get information regarding certain people who are committing crime. You won't do anything about it. When you even eventually, in quotes, say that people have been arrested, after a while, you will tell us some of them have been given an amnesty because they've repented. Somebody that have killed, you will not give them. You say you are incorporating them back into the society, and then in that regard,
after what they call radicalization,
they say there's radicalization. Yeah. Meanwhile, somebody who was accused of stealing or who stole 1,000 at Oshodi, probably is in Lagos in Kirikiri for years. There was no amnesty for that kind of person. They won't consider those kind of persons. So, and those who have been killed or whose family have been affected by those acts of the terrorists and the bandits or whatever they call them, are languishing somewhere they call IDP. You can see. I see that as an encouragement for people to commit more crime.
At what point did we get to that point where even crimes are being given some kind of nomenclature, as you call it, to give a soft, landing for people who might, be found in that particular act?
I think it was a gradual generation, because during Jonathan, we are aware of only Boko Haram. There was no bandit. It was when President Buhari came on board that they will have some issues in Zamfara and other part of the north that will begin to hear bandits.
Now, bandits now kidnap people too and ask for ransom.
I don't even know who's bandit, who's kidnap, who's terrorist. How do you distinguish them? People who are committing crime are criminal. Criminal. You can even say, if you want to even make it a more elaborate, you can say, you can call them terrorists if you want to even that. But don't say these are bandits, these are not terrorists, these are not Boko Haram, these are this and that. Sometimes they even give you names of their leaders. They will tell you this social group, that group. So you know them. You know who are controlling them. You know their leaders, and we're not doing anything. That's why I say it's a failure of government. Recently, we hear that a particular terrorist in the north who has been, in fact, is on the watch list. In fact, there is money on his head. Recently, he had meeting with government officers, with soldiers and police around.
Having meeting?
He's having meeting with government officers, discussing the way forward. And we say we are looking for him. And we say we are fighting crime. So for me, as far as I'm concerned, the issue of kidnapping or whatever thing we are talking about, banditry, Boko Haram, terrorists, or this and that, or killer S-men, or whatever we call it, is failure of government to provide security. And it appears government is not even more concerned about this insecurity. You can see recently, there are a lot of people who are key in Benue State. They were key, and by the government in an attempt to make it look like not a serious issue, try to trivialize it by saying it's a communal conflict. Who is fighting who? Who are fighting? The president went there after a lot of criticism that he went there after 7 days or so. He couldn't even get to the scene of the event. He was not there. He only stayed back at the city, address people, jamboree. Thereafter, they left. The second day, they were in Kaduna, commissioning project. So it shows that there was not even there's no value for lives. In some country, if that kind of thing happen, they will declare state money, national money, and then the 3 or 4 days or 7 days, nothing will happen. In our own case, it's not the case.
All right.
So it's failure of government. As long as the government is behaving the way they are behaving, this will continue.
Now, it's interesting to see that the Ondo State government, under the leadership of Lucky Aiyedatiwa, has risen to the occasion to say he wants to stem the tide by placing capital punishment on convicted criminals as long as kidnapping is concerned. Do you see this as a welcome development?
I will not condemn it. I will not say it's a final solution to the problem. I will not condemn it in the sense that it's a good thinking. And if they put it before the House and it's passed into law, then we'll see what happens. But for me, I have seen other states who have passed this kind of a bill into law. It's not even bill now, it's become law. Lagos State has a bill, has a law that make kidnapping punishment for kidnapping, death sentence, where there's a death, when the cause of kidnapping, people die.
Yes. You
are to sentence it to death. You have a death sentence. Edo State has a law in that regard that make it a death sentence. Ebonyi has a similar law. Akwa Ibom has a similar law. Kashina has a similar law. Have you seen anything? Have you seen anybody being convicted? The only one I'm aware of in Lagos State is that of Evans.
Yeah, Chukwudumeme.
Evans, who has been convicted, but he's still in court. Because I'm aware, I think he's still facing other cases. He's still in court, but he has been convicted in one of them, and he's been sentenced to death, and he's even in prison. So, apart from that, tell me another one that is pronounced. Tell me which one you know. The problem is not our law. In Nigeria situation that I know, our problem is not about law. we have enough law, even without this kidnapping law, new law that they're making, that make it that provide death sentence for it. The law on ground before now is that once you kill somebody, you have committed a murder, and the punishment is death sentence. And in some cases, life imprisonment, depending on the nature of it. So without this kidnapping law that we're talking about, there are law regarding murder, homicide in the north that make it a death sentence penalty for killing people. So if you kidnap and the people died, or if you kidnap and the people did not die, you may not be good. But the point is that it's not about the death sentence on it. The question is, will there be political way to enforce it? Those who have been sentenced to death, not even kidnapping matter, or another crime, how many people have been executed? You see, the government don't play their role of having that political way to do the right thing. As long as we continue to play politics or play religion, because some of the governors are not signing the death sentence because they say it's against their religion.
It's against one's religion. How?
Some of them are looking at it from the religious angle. They forgot that, look, as a governor, once a law is made and you act based on law, you have not committed any crime in that regard. So some of them are looking at it from a religious point of view. Some of them are looking at it from the political point of view. Some of them are looking at it from different angle. So the point I'm making is that as long as we are not enforcing our law the way it should be enforced, we are only making it on paper, just there on paper.
So
and
what legal? So what
it will
legal
not deter
framework?
people from committing for that crime.
So as a professional, what legal framework needs to be put in place to enforce that particular act, of governors signing it into law so that it becomes law?
There is no more legal framework that should be put in place. The law is here already, which empowers them to do
so
that.
What is
what
the
they need
issue
to
of
do? What they need
religious,
to do? What they need to
bias?
do? What they need to do is to do their job. That is just it. You see, and some of these issues we are talking about, it's not only the governors. Before you even conflict, they must have done proper investigation. They must have done proper prosecution before you can conflict. It's not just when they say somebody is a kidnapper, then you expect that the judge will just say, oh yeah, death sentence. No, it must be established before the court. A judge don't determine cases based on what they read on the newspaper or what they see on TV or anywhere. So what I'm trying to say is that, look, some of these things are not working well because those who are supposed to even do investigation to lay the foundation for proper case before the court don't do their job. And most people don't know that this is not even judiciary. This is executive. Those who prosecute are executive, not judiciary. Because people make that mistakes and talks about judiciary all the time, leaving the executives. The police, the Ministry of Justice, they are all under the executive. And the police are the one that will investigate. The prosecution will be by the Ministry of Justice or at their instance. It will be. So when you don't do proper investigation, there's no way you can get proper prosecution. And there's no way you can get conviction. So let's even assume that they'll be able to do proper investigation and they'll be able to do proper prosecution and then they get the proper results or the right results. Are they ready to enforce it? Are those who are supposed to implement it in terms of if somebody has been sentenced to death, sign the death warrant? What is stopping them? I don't know. They are giving flimsy excuses. So if they are not willing to do that, you may not deter. When I was growing up, when people are convicted for maybe stealing or armed robbery or whatever, and they are sentenced to death, they will be executed openly, and people will be there, and then that will give some fear into the mind of some people. Though the people still commit crime despite that, but it serves as deterrent to some people. Some people will take a second look before they even venture in that. But these days, when people who are committing crime are being given a ceremonial proper Owambe ceremony, they are being given when somebody who have killed so many people, who have confessed openly that he killed, said in the name of he has repent, they will give them a ashwebi, they will do this and that, give them money, give them comfort, while those they kill are somewhere languishing. These are the issues why the crime is still persisting. It's not only about the law itself, it's about not doing what they are supposed to do. Once you encourage crime, because I see that as an encouragement of crime, when you encourage people to commit crime, because some people who are big men today, they are billionaire, multi-billionaire, and they became the multi-billionaire because they claim they were fighting for people and they kill people, and they destroy our economic assets. And from there, they become popular. And today, they are in the system. Some of them are making billions monthly.
So, according to information, we have no fewer than 10 states that have existing laws on death, penalty as, capital punishment. Do you see this as just part of, the states, especially considering the fact that if this goes into law, it becomes, something that will be obtainable in Ondo State? Do you see the feasibility in this, especially considering the fact that there has been no political will in recent times to be able to match words with action, to make sure that justice for victims who have lost their life through kidnapping is being experienced?
I will not say making law in that regard is not a good idea, or they should not happen simply because there won't be enforcement. We are talking about today. Who knows? Tomorrow somebody else can come, and that person will take the bull by the horn and say, look, I want to enforce the law. If the law is not available, what happens? So if they are making law today and it's there, I will not say they should just stop it. They can make the law can be there. If they fail to enforce it today, somebody can come tomorrow and enforce it. But the point I'm making is that if you think you want to truly fight this crime, and you are making law in that regard, also have the mind of saying, I will ensure that this law is enforced the way it should be enforced. And whenever there's any judgment regarding somebody has been convicted for it, I'll go in line with it promptly.
Now, what do you think about banditry? Because now we're talking about kidnapping, and in your earlier statement, there is no distinction between kidnapping and banditry. They are all criminals or criminalities that are being carried out in the state. Do you think similar, sanctions or penalties, as it were, should be meted out on persons who are caught, engaging in armed banditry?
I don't know, in my own opinion.
Yes.
I don't know the difference between banditry and what's it called? Boko Haram or kidnappers or whatever. They are all committing crime. And if they are committing crime, go to the law and see how they. But when you now assign name to it and call them this and that, you are trivializing the crime they've committed. You are trying to make it like, so if you are Boko Haram, your own is higher. If you are banditry, your own is low. If you are this and that, that's what I see in it. So for me, I don't even believe in the idea of classification of them into. That is making it look like we are not serious. Once you commit crime, and there's a law in that regard, enforce the law. Don't use the name. So if you are going to court now, will you now say I'm not even aware that our law talks about this classification. There's no disclassification as to banditry or Boko Haram or any class of group of people. They consider every crime as crime, and everybody that has committed crime, they see them as criminal. So the idea of using name to say this and that, and you see the issue of even the issue of this kidnapping, we are not able to fight it well because of this ethnic coloration. When kidnapping or attack happens somewhere, rather than say people kill people, criminals have committed crime, they will say S-men. They will say they, just like we said, banditry. They will call them. So those who are in that particular ethnic will not see it as you are destroying our ethnic. They would start defending, and the issue becomes another thing. So when some people commit crime, irrespective of where they come from, call them criminal. Don't put their ethnic alienation into it.
So what could be done to correct that notion or the perception about giving crimes different nomenclature to make it seem as if though it's a lighter crime, as it were?
It is the government that will do that by ensuring that they are adequately punished, and the law that they follow the law, and they are those who have been found guilty or whatever are adequately punished in line with that law, irrespective of what class of people they are. So if you do that, because if it's not lightning, that's why they will be looking for people to discuss with. Because they don't see them as a criminal, they see them as having a genuine reason or have a reason in a way for doing what. But if you don't see, that's why they will say, let's talk to him, let's know what is the problem is, let's see how we can resolve the issue, let's see how we can bring them into the system. And I says, if you can do that to those who have been killing people, why not go to our correctional centers, and those who have been convicted of stealing 10,000, 500 naira, or those who are even roaming around that have been convicted or that have been dying, why can't we go to them and then radicalize them and set them free? If we can be doing that, but we don't do that. We give priority to those who are committing serious crime, and we make it look like what they have done is normal in circumstance. So, like I said, I'll blame the entire thing on the government, because the responsibility of the government is to provide security. So, if there is security in the country, we will not be talking about somebody kidnapper, banditry, or whatever. Because as it is today now, it appears these people are now bigger than they are even more well organized and equipped, the way it appears. Because even the government make all look like this. Recently, our chief of defense staff said something that I was ashamed to hear, that they were deceived. They were deceived to leave a particular location, and when the attack later happened thereafter. How can you be deceived? Where is our intelligence? Are we not doing anything? So even if you are giving information, are you supposed to, all of you, leave the place once and go to another place?
Now talk to me about the idea where some persons are of the opinion that even if this comes into law eventually in Ondo State, and a suspect, for instance, is apprehended and eventually tried and convicted, he might actually appeal such conviction. What's your take on that?
Of course not. Our system allows for that. The only decision you cannot appeal is that of the Supreme Court. If you, like this kind of a case that we're talking about now, it will start from the High Court, whether in Ondo State or everywhere. Well, if you are not satisfied with that decision, you go to the Court of Appeal. If you are not satisfied with the Court of Appeal, you go to the Supreme Court.
Is it likely?
So it's the only decision you cannot appeal is that of the Supreme Court.
Is it likely possible that even if they appeal, they may get a more favorable judgment eventually?
Of course, it's possible.
Even after evidence put before the court.
How do you know? You see, winning a case in court, it's not only about saying the truth. It's about being able to present the facts before the court. Sometimes it might not even be about the fact. It may be about not doing what the law requires. And I also know that in our criminal jurisprudence,
yes,
they say it is good to set 10 criminal free that to convict one innocent person. Sorry. What does it mean? It means that, look, if you are in a criminal trial, there is a kind of a doubt, a little doubt as to whether or not could this man be the one to have committed the offense or whatever. That doubt, notwithstanding the 99% other evidence that has shown that he committed, that 1% doubt will be resolved in his favor, and that will be a grant to set him free. That's our law.
So what happens to the family of the victim if, for instance, those victims actually died, in their custody? Will you say because of that particular section?
Justice is not one way. It's two way. Justice for the accused, justice for the other party.
So what justice
is what the law. Justice is not what you think.
So what I know. So what
justice is what the law says.
Yes, in as much as justice is what the law says, it should be seen as justice, especially for those who are victims of this particular act.
That's why you have the right to appeal. If they are not satisfied, they appeal. If they have a grant, because if like for example now, you have a case and then the law says this is the way and manner you are supposed to bring the case before the court, or this is what is to be done and what not to be done, and you fail to do it, they can even on that grant throw away your case. Or you are the prosecutor at the trial.
So are you saying that the prosecutor at this time might be looking at technicalities to be able to,
technicalities is part of the law.
Give fairness to the person who is the convicted person in this case?
Some of the things we call technicalities are part of the law. The procedure, following procedure, we may call it technicality. Sometimes it's part of the law. It's part of the justice that we're talking about. Like I said, you see, sometimes we use our sentiment to think about it. Sometimes you will think, I want this evidence. Did you see the evidence? Were you in court when the evidence was being given? Did you know what happened?
But the victim
did you know how?
The victim died in his custody.
In his custody.
The custody of the criminal, the suspect.
And you must establish that he was a kidnapper. You must establish that he was the one that killing happened in his custody. If you are not able to establish that, maybe you are just thinking, and we saw him. I think we saw him. He went to the house and went out again. That's why we think he's the one that did it. That may not be. That may be just suspicion. You see, sometimes I'm not trying to justify. Sometimes, like I said it earlier on, that the court is of the opinion that I told you, the law is of the opinion that look, it is better to allow one innocent man to be to set at least 30, let's say for example 30 people, 30 accused person free, than to allow one innocent man die. In other words, if you don't do your proper investigation and somebody is wrongly convicted, you can that is the most injustice. And so the court is not saying that look, sometimes when the court says you are not guilty, that does not mean the court is not saying you did not do it. What the court is saying is that there is no evidence before me to show that you did it. Not that you do not, not that it may have done it. Just like let me use the one that is common, the civil one, civil cases, like in the electoral system, like petition. When the court said there is no evidence to back up the case, and therefore the man has been returned, the case is dismissed or this and that, and therefore this person has. The court did not say he won the election. The court is not saying he won the election truly. But the court is saying, based on the evidence before me to determine whether or not there was a irregularity or this and that. So
it's more about how you argue the case.
It's about evidence before the court. It's about evidence before the court. So that whatever, in criminal, in civil, it's about evidence before the court.
So right about now, it's not Uhuru.
So and that's why I said the court at the state, it's not only about passing the law. They must do the right thing. The right thing is about, and I've said it, proper investigation, proper prosecution. Without proper investigation, there is no foundation to commit anybody, to sentence anybody. You may have a clear case, but if there is no proper investigation of that case will be bungled, and then nothing will happen. So sometimes this is not about sentiment. It may be painful. It may look like they are doing the wrong thing, but sometimes they are also being wary of the fact that look, we cannot give a wrong judgment to convict innocent man.
Thank you so much, Barrister Tunji Abdulrahman, for giving us your
Abdulhamid
for giving us your 2 cents on the matter. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Of course, it's about time now for us to hand you over to our Benin Network studios.